Welcome back, everyone. I do want to point out that there are some other resources that I think Holly put in the chat function. So take a peek at those if you didn't see that already. Welcome back from break. We, again, so grateful for Amber and Ross. And now we're going to actually transition to Holly, Adam, and Apryl. So this section is titled Resources. So you've probably heard a few resources thus far, but I believe that they're going to even have more for us. And so I'm hoping that the three of them can figure out who's going to talk first, but giving a bit of an introduction of who you are, you know, your farm, perhaps how you're related to each other, just for context for the rest of us, or if you're not claiming each other, that's okay too. So relationship, how you're related to each other, and a little bit about your farming operation. And then just like we did before, questions, pop them in the chat function, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. So I'm going to turn it over to the three of you.
I think Apryl and Adam should probably go first because they can speak to the resources that they have used and found or will use in the future. And then I can come in at the end, and anything that I know of that they didn't cover, I can fill in the blanks. So you guys can go first.
That sounds good. I'm Apryl Mawby. Adam and I are newlyweds. We got married in October here. So we both have our pre-existing farming backgrounds, which are different. Together now we own Garden Dwellers Ranch. That's Adam's business that he started long before I was in the picture. My background, I used to run a very small farm in Rolette, North Dakota. I sold at farmers market. I ran a very small CSA. I was kind of a one-woman show, so very small scale, and raised goats, pigs, chickens, a little bit of everything, sheep. I had my own business making goat milk soaps and value-added products like that. Life brought me in some different directions. Now I am, my off-farm job is at Dakota College in Bottineau, working for the Entrepreneur Center for Horticulture, and I am the farm manager there. So I grow vegetables on the campus gardens, and we sell those to Sodexo, our on-campus dining service. We've sold to our local school district, and last year, 2019, we kind of did a farmer's market style sale with some of our excess produce. This year, due to COVID, we had to change a lot of plans. We didn't do any farmer's market style vegetable production there. We're just selling to staff and faculty, very small.
What? I started Garden Dwellers Ranch technically only last year. I started raising livestock before then, though, and I was focused on a meat-based, direct-to-consumer business. And as I was sitting here thinking about it with resources, I actually got my idea to raise sheep from a conference, listening to somebody else, gathering in their information, and kind of driving in my own way to interpret and take it from there. So I've done, I do want to answer a couple questions while it's still on my mind. There was a market research question earlier. And I know Amber and Ross said they didn't do postcards, but for my first year of raising chickens, broiler chickens, and giving them out, I also gave a self-addressed stamped postcard with anonymity behind it, trying to get just honest opinions of, was it good, was it bad, any changes to it. And I found that really worked well for me. Giving it to the customer, not knowing whether they were going to use it or not, was fine, because the cards I did get back were valuable in the information. And we were actually looking at doing that again this year as a resource to figure out what our customers are, and where we want to go with the birds, especially poultry is a market where we can go a couple of different directions, hopefully, versus my sheep. I have one market where that's the USDA process. If I sell the cuts, or I sell a whole lamb direct. And so that was one resource that I have used already. So
we're currently the two of us raising pastured poultry and grass-fed lamb. We're hoping to expand our operation when we can get some more land to include pigs and a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we like to hit the protein spectrum eventually, doing the beef as well. But there are a lot of beef producers out there, so trying to create the market of our brand right now, pasture-based, regenerative agriculture, and local, hitting those type of markets.
And we may venture into growing vegetables together again someday. Too. Right now, it's, I would say, not in the cards at this moment. We'll see what happens.
And so now with my story, other resources, farms has been a big one. I have to point out that I've been through their intern program. I've gotten micro grants from them, and through the Farm Beginnings, that has been my biggest resource. And from them, I've been able to branch out and find other organizations, other like-minded, either individuals or entities out there to bounce ideas off of or look to for guidance if I have questions on anything. It's getting together. I saw in the harvest from last week that the community connection, and finding people like-minded, because I know I kind of came into agriculture through conventional ag. I wanted to see what it took to run a profitable, or at least what they call a profitable farm nowadays, through conventional mono row crops, through leaving cattle out in the pasture for an extended period of time and not worrying about them, checking on them once or twice. I wanted to see what that took so that I could then break off from there, and have that knowledge to fall back on. I knew that the direct market path, and especially starting with sheep, while I could handle it on my own, resources idea there. When I started raising sheep, all the farmers that I worked for were big cattle guys. And so, what are you raising sheep for? No, nobody knows anything about them. They just die. And so I didn't have much resources there. It was just kind of going on a whim, but I slowly found some as I just stuck with it. Looking around, grabbing a book here or there, listening online. This year's really helped. A lot of conferences and stuff went online, so webinars. There's a place, Farm Animal Concern Trust, FACT. They've got grants and money for humane animal handling and raising of animals in humane fashions. So I keep up to date on their email, and trying to get in through their grant programs. It's been a lot of just constant keeping up with it. You got to make the time to keep digging, to keep trying to find what's new is the biggest thing. Trying to, I don't want to say jump on a bandwagon, but there are a lot of times where if you are there fast enough on a website or a platform or something, you can get spotlighted a little bit and get some extra help there. But it does take a lot of dedication, that personal time. Amber Ross touched on that, and kind of dedicating yourself to sitting down and doing a task. Amber mentioned crossing it off. That doesn't happen all the time, but you get as far as you can sometimes.
Adam, you got two grants that really helped you. One was APUC, which would be available to any of these folks in North Dakota. Can you talk a little bit about your APUC grant and how maybe bring in the American Lamb Board grant that you got too?
Yeah, I was turned on to APUC by a couple of different sources. APUC is the Agricultural Products Utilization Committee. And through them, they try and promote anything related to an agricultural business or endeavor. Um, I applied with them to reach out with lamb. I wanted to get more lamb into the hands of consumers directly. So I wrote up a grant program to basically give away 1 pound lamb packages with the postcard, had a bunch of recipe books in it, how to cook, and I really targeted people who hadn't experienced lamb before, were new to it. The sheep I chose to raise are a hair breed, so it's milder in flavor typically, can easily be mixed into any type of recipe, in my opinion. And that's what a lot of the customers who filled out the postcards kind of reported back, that um, it was different, it was enjoyable, and yeah, they would try it again. And so that reassurance at the end of the whole grant program of those cards really kind of gave me another new drive again to keep going, because I hit farmers market after farmers market. I was in, I think, 12 or 13 farmers markets across all of North Dakota, from Minot to Grand Forks, just trying to get local lamb known. At the same time, selling a couple chickens, get my business out there. So they really helped pay for getting a farmer's market stand presentation, real nice setup, getting visibly known, as well as supporting that there is a local product here in North Dakota that may be underutilized or just not well known, and providing me the money to be able to get a business going. So
The other grant.
what was
American Lamb Board.
they were the same. That's a nationally known or nationally funded through all lamb sales program that they were advertising, and they've got all sorts of different glam burger contests and Instagram, but they also work very closely with individuals to help promote on local levels. So they helped fund for the similar grant, just trying to get the lamb out there, get it into the hands of consumers with recipe books, how-to guides, and everything like that. And so they were really good to work with. All the recipe books were free, and they are on their website, so it was a great resource to direct them to. They have an online or a web page devoted to sourcing local lamb, and you can get listed as long as you have a website. And so finding that national recognition to be a part of as well is assured me in the business and growing of it, and it gives me some more credibility as well to say, well, hey, no, national recognition here, I'm on this website, able to prove a little more credibility, I guess, behind the product and my business, our business.
Anything else you guys want to mention about resources before I? Oh, there's a couple questions for you, or one.
Oh, look at that. Thank you. I'm not paying it. I was intently listening. Do you have byproducts? Eggs, feathers, fertilizer?
The eggs, we do raise some laying chickens. They're just for our own use, so we're not really in the egg business. As far as the feathers and all that,
Mostly personal use right now, and while that is in the grand scheme of a farm, and in our opinion is you need to maximize as much as possible, and so like we had mentioned, down the road possibly having beef, Apryl would use the beef tallow, render it down, and use it in soaps and lotions and stuff like that, and milk from a milking cow, same with lard from the pig. We want to try and incorporate as much of the products from the land back into products that then we're taking off of the land, to equal out what we're doing. So
yeah, that's very important to both of us. Utilizing all of what would maybe be considered a waste product in some instances.
I am not the best to ask about writing a grant. It took me dedicating time, sitting down, writing, walking away, coming back, couple minutes, couple hours the next day. Give yourself plenty of time before the deadlines because they creep up quick. Um, I just missed a couple deadlines that I was hoping to get in on some grants for next year. So now April and I were talking, we're just going to get the paperwork done, get our applications ready. And so hopefully if they open up again next year the same way, we can just be ready and enter them in. And be passionate about it. That's in all the grants, really talking about the reasons why I've always felt help out in the grants.
So Stephanie just added that one of the sessions in Farm Beginnings is about connecting to local resources and how to write grants. So a little plug in there for Farm Beginnings.
I think it definitely helps to step back and reapproach at different times, like he said. And I think have other people review what you've done too, and people that you respect. And that's why this community that we have here that we're building here right now even is so important. We need each other.
Mhm.
I think Adam sells himself a little bit short. He really is quite an excellent writer because he writes from the heart, and he kind of tells it like it is. And like he said, focusing on the why is really important to him. And I think as a grant writer myself and someone who reviews a lot of grants, that's something that really resonates with me when I'm reading a grant. And so I think that particular portion is very important. And I think their point about walking away, thinking about it a little bit, and then, coming back to making sure you're being true to yourself and true to what you want. When writing a grant, it's really easy to see, oh, here's a grant and I can get $500. Doesn't really fit what I want to do, but I can get $500, and trying to make what you want to do fit the grant rather than the other way around, going into it with, this is what I need, this is what I want to get done. Yes, this will work. Or, this is a grant that might pay for that. Going about it the other way is just wrong. You're not going to be successful, and you're just going to drive yourself crazy.
Next question is have you considered writing a cookbook, paleo, keto, caveman, protein-based, with sections for poultry, pork, and lamb?
I actually have thought about this, and this may be in the cards for us someday. I don't think we're quite to that point yet, but I am obsessed with food. I love local food. That is my passion in life, whether it's vegetables or animals or whatever. I love making things, and I love cooking. I cook just about everything we eat from scratch. I would love to write a cookbook someday. I actually, over the last 10 years, have been slowly kind of writing my own cookbook. I thought I would hand that down to my children someday, but maybe we'll publish something.
And that's one thing that studying other businesses that are doing meat or niche markets are posting like YouTube content of how-tos, and Amber and Ross had touched on when their social media and not wanting their daughter in the pictures, and making sure that they were very specific on what they were controlling. Getting a website is very important. I don't have one yet. We haven't set one up quite yet.
We're working on it.
I've registered the name, the domain name. I have it forwarded to social media because Facebook was easy to set up and everything. But that is a high priority of ours, is getting a proper website set up so that we own our content, and then we'll have how-tos. This is what a rack of lamb would look like. This is what a leg roast could come out as. These are things you could do with chickens or the chicken fat, and stuff like that, really to help draw in customers as well as inform your current customers. And so looking towards the website as a big resource tool in the future, to kind of help spread some of that.
And educating our customers is going to be an important thing. There's a lot of products that we have that people aren't familiar with how to use. Rendering fat is easy. That's something a lot of people aren't familiar with doing or using animal products in that sort of way.
One of the highlights as part of the APOC and the ALB American Lamb Board grants was I was trying to promote lamb liver as well. I felt that the liver was a large organ that was high in nutrient, could be edible, cooked in certain ways, and taken care of. But a lot of times my customers that I previously had wanted nothing to do with it. And so trying to maximize the most out of my products and the customer's dollar, really, I wanted to use that to explain to them that there are uses for it. So.
Yeah, and normally people aren't too interested in organ meats when we're selling our whole birds, but I think maybe with some education, we can turn some people into some pate lovers like myself.
That and also goes back to wanting to run the postcards or some sort of information gathering system so that we can get whether our customers are looking for the gizzards or fat, or we actually ran 2 different types of birds this year. And so next year that'll be part of our determination of what our customers like or are looking for, because the birds do have different characteristics. And so trying to feel that out, we'll need their input. And so.
Mm-hmm.
So Holly, I wonder if we can look to you. So what kind of resources do you rely on? So, thinking about the whole farmer, emotional, social frameworks, financial support, agricultural resources, like tell us what's in your brain.
Oh, that's scary. First, I want to ask Stephanie, is there still funding in that NICE with the NICE group left?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna take that as a cue to give a pitch for our summer marketing project. I dropped in the chat box a link. It's www.farms.org/marketing2020. We did a special project this summer. Holly was part of that project to provide digital marketing education for farmers. And we did 3 webinars. They were all recorded. It's all free. It's at that website, farms.org, marketing 2020. You can watch the recordings. But also, there is a marketing expert in Fargo named Dane Johnson who absolutely free will help you with setting up a website, improving your social media. Maybe you already have a website, but you want to add a shopping cart. He can help you with all these things, and it is completely free because his services are paid for by North Dakota SARE, Sustainable Ag Research and Education. So check that out. There's lots of resources for websites and digital marketing. Thank you, Holly.
You're welcome. So yeah, that was the first one. I want to focus just briefly up front on the financial, because that just seems to be what everybody focuses on when you say resources. They're like, where's the money? In fact, I got a phone call just today from a producer down by Bismarck who's starting up, and that was his question, resources that he was looking for. So there's the money for Dane, through the NICE fund, through farms. Farms themselves, Adam mentioned that they have a lot of other things as well as some financial resources for startup folks. The North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association, if your intended market for your product will be at a farmer's market and you're going to be selling at one of our member markets, which is most of them across the state, you should be eligible for a new vendor grant, which is $300 to use on anything that you need to sell at the farmer's market. That can be found at ndfarmersmarkets.org. Stephanie mentioned SARE, the North Dakota Sustainable Ag Research Education. They have different grants. It's actually the North Central region that has grants that come up every year. Now, with some of those, you need to be doing research or something like that. But again, you may have a project that would fit. You can also, if again, what you're doing fits, look locally. Some of our local economic development entities, our CVBs, our chambers, our job development authorities, JDAs, are supportive of new small businesses in their area, especially if you can make a connection to show how you are building the economy or the community. And that's really the key with those, is to point out how you are bettering your community or your economy in your area. So don't be afraid to kind of make that connection locally as well, because it is about your community, and that's a great place to start building your customer base. Let's see. As far as maybe some non-financial ones, I've heard it a couple times already. Webinars, podcasts,
YouTube.
yeah. You know, you can find anything on YouTube, can't you? You just got to make sure that it's good information, not bad information. I've seen some bad information. Making those learning connections as you grow. I mean, even I have been doing this for all my life. I've been growing things all my life, and I still will sit in on a webinar or something and go, oh, guess what? I just learned something new. That's a great idea that I hadn't thought of before. So those types of things are usually free or low cost, and a great way to get resources as far as new knowledge, which is a huge resource. And lastly, you know, you mentioned kind of that social emotional. We all need that. And even if you know, go to a conference right now, go to a virtual conference, hang out with like people, find your peeps and join their flock, because you will feel so much better, you know, after you've had that great conversations with people of like mind, and you go home, you are so invigorated, because farming can be really tough on the soul and the body and the brain. And there are times that you know, middle of summer, it's July, it's 102, you've been weeding and watering all day, it's 10:30 at night, the sun is just going down, you are totally beat, and you wonder why you ever decided to do this. And it's those times that you can spend with other like-minded folks that really make you realize, this is why I do this. These are the people that energize me. You know, so don't discount that. Don't tell yourself, oh, I don't have time to go to that conference, it's 2 days, or I don't want to travel all the way to Fargo to go to that conference, it's too far. It's, you know, it's $50 and I don't really have an extra $50 right now. Prioritize those things, because if you lose the heart and the soul for it, you've lost it all. You know, so stay connected to your peeps. And we've already listed in the chat several times ND Small Farms. That's a website that is maintained by me and the others at Dakota College of Botano. It has some great resources for those of us in North Dakota. That many of those resources are focused on North Dakota. They're data that we have collected from other producers across the state. They're regulations for North Dakota, specifically to our state, pricing guidelines for our state. There's other national sort of things on there as well, but that really has a whole lot of resources, and it's broken up into sections that hopefully make sense. You know, who are my customers? How do I market to my customers? How do I set my prices? How do I grow?
So here's a question. What do you have suggestions on resources for nonprofits?
Well, nonprofits, of course, kind of have the advantage when it comes to grant writing. many grants are only open to nonprofits, probably more so than those that are open to individual farmers or producers. So you do have that. And in that case, you can look a lot of times at the USDA website. There's a lot of different grant programs through the USDA, and they actually have, I believe it's grants, Stephanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, grants.gov that's searchable by type of grant or topic.
See, NRCS has a lot of grants too, as well as their Equip grant. That's how I got my first high tunnel when I was farming in Rolette. That's available to beginning and non-beginning farmers. They'll basically, you have to pay for it, your high tunnel initially, which is around $7,000 or so, but they will reimburse you for that. That's the Equip grant through NRCS.
And NRCS, FSA, Farm Service Agency, when going to talk to those, I know in my personal experience, they kind of look at you like you're raising sheep for direct to market. How much are you making per? I did face a little bit of backlash on what I could actually make and what I could prove for profit on a bird direct to consumer versus they've got a set budget. And so sometimes you just got to keep diligent and keep with it. They have funding, they have the money. They just need a little explaining sometime on the differences and the new ways of doing things. And so persistence really pays off though.
Yeah, sometimes folks like us approaching them, that's a whole different animal that they haven't had to deal with before. We had been kind of talking to FSA for a while to get a farm ownership and operating loan, something like that. And the kinds of things that we wanted to do to make money were just completely alien to them. They were fascinated by us, but we were different, and they were going to require us to come up with some ways to prove that we could make profit on these ideas that we had. And there's not
the data isn't a lot
yeah.
and open out there a lot. And so it was just the dedication of us really crunching numbers, talking to a couple other farmers that maybe have been mentors in the past or have helped us out. Getting personal with anybody who is similar minded has really paid off. Being able to rely on them for reference or financial bookwork help, anything like that. So
I would say also, kind of going back to what Holly said, our sense of community. When you do go to these conferences, when we can go to conferences again, make friends with people and find them on social media. I have met so many of my friends that I've had for nearly a decade now. We might only see each other once every couple of years at a conference, but they have been valuable resources for me to tap into when I need to, and vice versa.
Couple of final words about grants too. I know we all like grants. It's free money, right? But it's not for everybody, and it's not really free money. Know that, as Apryl said with the Equip grant, most of them, you're expending those funds out of your pocket ahead of time and getting reimbursed. There's very few grants that are going to give you a check up front for those things. So you have to have the ability to carry through with that and spend that up front and get reimbursed. Secondly, know that that is considered income. It will be added onto your taxes. So be prepared to pay the taxes on, you can go, ooh, I got a $10,000 grant. Are you prepared to pay the taxes on an additional $10,000 in revenue at the end of the year? And lastly, it's not just all about the application. There's follow-up paperwork. There's receipts, there's final reports. If you are not a paperwork person, if you're not good at keeping track of receipts and costs and things like that, grants may not be for you, or you may need to find someone to assist you to say, I want to apply for this grant, I want to go for this, but I need somebody to help keep me organized with the paperwork and the reporting dates and things like that. So know those 3 things going in, that, you know, it's not just they're going to hand you a check and go away. They expect something for that, and that it is part of your taxes, and that you most likely will have to expend it up front out of your own pocket.
They want to make sure you have skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
Well, gosh, thank you so much to Holly, Adam, and April, and their new sweet little girl. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your expertise and answering our questions. We all really appreciate it.
We never did claim each other.
No, I did notice that, and I thought, well, maybe you don't really want to claim each other, so I was going to let it go.
Those 2 I will claim any day, anytime, every day, everywhere. Adam is my son, and he kind of grew up with our business, Garden Dwellers Farm, which has always been an herb business. But when we first began the business, we understood that our revenue would not be coming in until later in the summer through fall. And so to begin the business, we actually were growing rhubarb at the time, so that we would have income right away in the spring, because rhubarb's the first thing up and it's ready to go by Memorial Day weekend. So Adam spent many years cutting rhubarb out of the 2,000 plants we had in the field, walking them out of the field, cleaning, chopping, slicing, bagging, freezing, delivering. And we used to do about 2,100 pounds of rhubarb a year. And if he didn't do all those deep knee bends to be taking them out of the field, he really, we would have been lost without him. And so he has always been a part of Garden Dwellers Farm, with maintenance and thought control and keeping his parents from doing really stupid stuff. And then his interests diverged. I tried to raise a plant kid. I got an animal kid. I don't know how.
Not true though. I still focus on the plants, because the plants feed my animals and then they feed my customers, and so we are still there.
And
So,
I met Holly. I met Holly at a food safety workshop through farms. Actually, that was the first time we met, and we have just stayed in touch ever since then. And it's through Holly that Adam and I have met.
Nicely done, Holly.
I know, I planned it that way.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're gonna transition into Stephanie telling us about farm beginnings, which you've heard a little bit. You've heard pieces here and there, but she's gonna kind of give an overview of what that is and how that works. So Stephanie, you're up.
Could I reclaim the host so that I can share my screen?
Absolutely, you can. Oh, good. Oh, I have to give it to you, I suppose. Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. So all of these things segue really nicely into what I want to tell you about farms programming. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. Actually, Anita, if you could drop farms.org/succeed into the chat box. That is where you can learn more and register for our Farm Beginnings course. And I'm going to tell you about some other resources in addition to Farm Beginnings, because they've come up throughout the conversation. So Farm Dreams is an opportunity for you to assess your preparedness to begin pursuing your farm dreams. But if you're ready, Farm Beginnings is for you. This is our online farm business planning course, and it's tailored to sustainable agriculture. So the nuts and bolts, it's going to be 10 online classroom sessions starting January 28th and going through April 8th. There will be supplemental videos and study sessions throughout. There's also mentorship as a component, so you'll be learning from farmers like you've met here in Farm Dreams, who are experienced North Dakota growers. And then you will also have the opportunity to be mentored by these farmers. For example, Holly has been working with a farmer from the Red River Valley since May, mentoring her and helping her learn about herb production. So the course is a business planning course, but it's unique because it's farmer-led. It's focused on sustainable agriculture. So there's a real focus on thinking in systems, seeing your farm as a whole, made of interconnected systems, and so it's not just looking at one enterprise, it's thinking about how all the pieces of your farm fit together. It's also unique because of that peer support component, the mentorship. We've talked a lot in these two sessions about the value of finding others who share your passions and your dreams. So that's a really strong component of Farm Beginnings. So by the time you're done with Farm Beginnings, you will have created your farm business plan that will guide your farm enterprise. It's also worth noting that Farm Beginnings is a certified borrower training program for USDA Farm Service Agency. So if you go to FSA and you apply for a loan, they're going to want to check the box that you've completed a borrower training program. If you've completed Farm Beginnings, you can show them your certificate of completion and they will just check that box. You're good to go. So the cost is $500 per farm, and a farm could be more than one person. We've seen two couples here tonight. That's a two-person farm. So they would just pay $500 for the whole farm. There is a $25 registration fee per student. So each student does pay the $25 fee. That's because we provide some books and some handouts, things like that are, for each student. And we want Farm Beginnings to be accessible for everyone. We don't want financing to be a barrier to the course. So we do have scholarships available. And if you have any doubt, you should apply for a scholarship. We strive to be generous with our scholarships so that everyone can participate. And I should say, we get grant funding from the USDA and from foundations, so that we are able to provide scholarships and put this course on. So I will, yeah.
So someone just asked, is the cost tax deductible?
I don't know.
Stephanie, I'm not sure about tax deductible, but you certainly could claim it as an educational piece or professional development for your business.
Yeah, definitely.
So claiming it as an expense through your business for professional development is certainly allowed, but I'm not sure about straight up tax deductible.
So it wouldn't be tax deductible in the sense that a donation to farms is tax deductible, because you are receiving something in return, education. Farms is a 501c3, so if you made just a straight donation to us, yes, that would be tax deductible. But that I've never had that question before, and I will ask, I will investigate more. Were there any other questions before I?
Oh, that one just popped up when you were talking about cost.
Okay. I will email everyone who's registered with more information about Farm Beginnings. I do have the webpage up so that you can register if you are ready. It's at farms.org/succeed. I also wanted to tell you about a lot of our other programming, just because you've had some questions that related directly. So we also do monthly lunch and learns, and those won't start again until January, but in the winter and spring 2021, we plan to talk about farm to grocery, food hubs, scaling up. We're going to revisit digital marketing. So keep on the lookout for those. And then I want to make sure that you see our webpage. So farms.org. Am I still sharing my screen?
You sure are.
Okay. Food photography for farmers is over. But Holly mentioned SARE as a funding source for grants. We did do in November, our Lunch and Learn was about the SARE Farmer Rancher Grant, and you can watch the recordings of both of those. We talked to 3 farmers who, including Amber, who have applied and won the Farmer Rancher Grant. We also have resources, including digital marketing education. So here you can see recordings of our marketing webinars. As I said, they're completely free of charge, as well as reaching out to Dane Johnson to get that free help. Oh, and then financing. Farms does offer loans to help you with startup costs. So one example is that we talked about the EQIP grant for high tunnels. We've had several farmers who pair their EQIP grant with a loan from farms. So they apply for the EQIP grant, but that is a reimbursement grant. So then they get a loan from farms so that they have the initial cash layout to purchase the high tunnel, and then they get reimbursed by the grant. So that's at farms.org/grow. And the application form is there as well. And if you take Farm Beginnings, you are eligible for your first year interest-free on your loan.
Stephanie, what time of day is Farm Beginnings and how long does the sessions last?
Great question. So Farm Beginnings is going to be in the evenings on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. for 2 hours. We will have a few supplemental sessions, usually on Mondays or Wednesdays in the evenings. And yeah, so 10 sessions that are 2 hours in the evenings, plus a few supplemental sessions like study sessions, and hoping to put together at least one virtual farm tour as well.
And there's also so there'll also be homework, right? So you're working on your business plan. So the amount of time that you put in is what you get in return. That would be outside of those session times.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's structured in a way that if there's some videos or some learning to do, that will happen outside of the 2 hours. So then the 2 hour time frame then is really, you get to dive in and do the work and have the conversations and do the talking versus listening. Like, more like tonight, there'll be the tonight, if tonight happened in Farm Beginnings, you would have watched those videos ahead of time, and the Farm Beginning time would be discussion time.
Exactly. Thank you. You said it better than I could have. So you might be wondering what we learn about in Farm Beginnings. That's the thing I forgot to share. So those 10 sessions, we're going to cover refining your vision and goals, creating your farm's mission statement, Several sessions on farm financial management, including budgeting. We'll dive into enterprise budgets, maybe cash flow, balance statements, record keeping, which we've talked about a little bit tonight. That's critical. Marketing in all its forms. You know, selling at farmers market is one form, digital marketing, market research, soil health and natural resource management. That's often everybody's favorite. We often work with the soil health experts at Minokan Farm, which is affiliated with Natural Resource Conservation Service in Burleigh County. Farm food safety, which Holly has taught for us before, how to ensure that you're getting your produce to market in a safe way, that you're keeping pests and contaminants out of your production fields. Financing your farm business, connecting to resources and service providers, and then the final session is presenting everything you've learned in your farm business plan. And I did drop into the chat earlier a link to a file, which was one of the handouts from last year's session on connecting to resources. So everything, all the resources that were mentioned tonight, NRCS, Farmers Market and Growers Association, those are all compiled in that document so that you can find them again.
And Stephanie, if I could add on to the farm beginnings, I took it by myself last year, and when Apryl and I got together and started talking about both of our dreams for the business and where we wanted to go, that was the first place I went to, was all the paperwork I had from going through farms beginnings, the goal setting, holistic management, business setup, all the accounting paperwork and everything. It was really good setup. And then now, as we're going into FSA and these other organizations, we're able to add in this paperwork. We're already kind of a step ahead. It seems like we're going in with business plan goals and being able to describe exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, why, and where, and everything. So that course was a huge help. I will admit I did resist a little bit going into it. Do I really need to? And fought it a little bit, but it's been very valuable in my opinion now. So
one more question, and then we'll move on to our harvest. So are the sessions recorded? Can you see a session later if you have to miss a Thursday night? I see yes, shaking head.
Yes, we'll be using a learning management system. So all of your homework and the recordings of the sessions, you'll have a login and password that, yes, you can, it's okay if you miss a session, you can catch up.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing all that information about farms. As you can see, there's lots of resources. So we just have a couple things left, and I know that, oh, it's 8 o'clock right this second, so I'm hoping that you can hold on for just a few more minutes. I think we will we'll do the harvest. So just like we did last time, what have you noticed or learned in the last 2 hours together? So Stephanie, are you able to, do you want to give me control, or do you want to share your screen again with the Google Doc?
I could just share the Google Doc.
Okay, perfect. So Stephanie can take notes for us as we share. And really, I'm not looking it's just popcorn format. So just shout out as you think of things or as things come to you. So we're looking for, what have you noticed or learned in the last 2 hours?
Is my screen sharing working? Are they looking?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
The marketing ideas were really helpful, like the postcards and so on.
What have you noticed or learned?
All the online websites are very helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate all the resources and the insight from everybody that shared tonight. It's very helpful. I've been to a couple of farming conferences over the last couple of years, and definitely that sense of connection is truly meaningful and inspiring, and like really, it's connecting with your tribe is very important, I guess is the easiest way to say that. And it feels good to see a lot of people in North Dakota. Yeah, I'm new to the North Dakota scene as a returning decades later kind of thing. So I'm excited to connect with more people doing it up here.
I noticed a lot of complexity and a lot of moving parts in both of the presentations tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to admit that hearing Amber and Ross talk about the difficulties you're going to face right off the bat, hit home, especially with us, like having things written in contract and written down, and so hearing that other people are going through the same thing and they're still making it out on the other side, seemingly. So the reassurance was nice.
Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to say that diversifying your revenue streams was an important insight, as well as I kudos to them for all the analysis they do in their off season based on record keeping, because that's really crucial.
Michael, did you have something else?
Yeah, I thought, emphasizing that it's a lifestyle, that you're a part of the community, part of the economy, and how you have to really watch for your neighbors as well. I thought that was very rewarding.
One I've had, and this may sound wrong in the initial, but there's no such thing as an original idea in terms of if you've thought about it or wondered about it, there's odds are someone also has or has dealt with it. And seeing some of that tonight, I guess, with my own thoughts and ideas and hearing others talk about that. So if you're wondering about it, odds are someone has already gone through it or thought about it themselves too.
Thank you for all of those. Appreciate those insights. So really our last thing is just to really close. So I really want to thank each and every one of you for participating. Special shout out and thanks to Amber, Ross, Holly, Apryl, and Adam for being willing to share your experiences and answer the hard questions, and be vulnerable and say, hey, we've been doing this, but we still have things that we're trying to figure out. So thank you, really, truly. Please do consider to sign up for Farm Beginnings, and look to Farm's website for additional resources. There's a a newsletter to sign up for. So be staying in touch with them. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. I'm just in gratitude. I did want to just say, in case you don't know how this works, I believe all of you can download the chat function, so you can be able to see those resources that were posted in the chat. So I think there's those three little dots next to where you type a message, and if you click on that, you can say save chat. So you can actually just download that to your device that you're on, to be able to have those resources if you've forgotten one of them or can't remember, and you can look back later. So there's that. So we are 8:06. Thank you for your additional time, and have a wonderful evening.